When light and shadow first collided in the fabric of creation, one warrior represented heaven, clad in golden armor and wielding a fiery sword. His name was St. Michael the Archangel, whose name means "who is like God." Commander of the heavenly hordes, the mightiest sword forged in the will of God. Against Lucifer, the morning star turned adversary, heaven witnessed a battle whose proportions are merely understood in the human imagination. In the instant that heaven itself shook, it was Michael who overthrew the traitor, like the sword of justice, executing the will of the Almighty. According to the scriptures, in the final hour, when the world trembles and the end approaches, the paths of the adversary and the heavenly commander will cross again, in the open, with the world as their witness. St. Michael the Archangel and Lucifer morning star once again face to face. But this time, it will be the last. Michael is one of the 7 archangels mentioned in the Abrahamic religions. According to Christian and Catholic tradition, Michael is the leader of the heavenly armies and the main defender of the Church. His role in salvation is crucial, and his presence is evident in multiple passages of the Bible, as well as in Christian theology, where he defends justice and truth in the name of God. As C.S. Lewis says in his work, The Screwtape Letters, "The brave do not fear combat against the enemy because they know they have an ally in heaven who protects and guides them." In Islamic belief, Michael is one of the 4 archangels responsible for bringing nourishment and guiding rain and sustenance from heaven, demonstrating his role is not only one of war, but also of divine balance. The name Michael is not meant to emphasize the power of his creator, but rather to challenge all who seek control over existence. In a sense, he is intended as a divine weapon, an archetype representing all of God's grace and goodness, but meant for combat, for the charge of heaven when it responds to evil. Some Christian groups, most notably Jehovah's Witnesses, hold a different view. They believe that Michael and Jesus Christ are the same person, different names, for the same being in different roles. In their understanding, Michael is the heavenly identity of the Son of God, before and after his earthly life as Jesus. They point to verses such as 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 16, where Jesus is said to return with the voice of an archangel, and Revelation 12, where Michael leads the angels against Satan, a role that closely mirrors Christ's authority over angels and judgment. For them, Michael is not a lesser being, but the pre-existent Christ acting as God's appointed commander and judge. This belief remains controversial and is rejected by most Christian traditions, which see Jesus as divine and worthy of worship, while Michael, though exalted, remains an angel. He first appears in the book of Daniel not as a messenger, but as a warrior. He enters the scene during a vision where a heavenly being informs Daniel that a spiritual prince of Persia had opposed him, and that Michael, one of the chief princes, had come to help him. From the beginning, Michael is portrayed as a combatant in an invisible spiritual war, a protector of God's plan. Later, in Daniel chapter 12 verse 1, he is called the Great Prince, who will arise in times of unprecedented trouble to defend God's people, a clear prophetic reference to the end times. This makes Michael's first appearance a harbinger of an apocalyptic fate. However, the previously mentioned rivalry with Lucifer is what distinguishes the tale of the protector of the brave. Furthermore, one cannot be discussed without bringing up the other. The divine war which was fought between the fallen angel and the heavenly commander is a struggle that some people think actually happened, and that foretells the future of the world. The divine war is the great rupture at the heart of heaven's history, a cataclysm that pitted the eternal powers of good against evil. This, according to Christian theology, is referred to as the First War, the origin of all conflict, and its events have shaped every battle between opposing poles since. It is from this point, presumably, that all historical conflicts have derived. But where did it all originate? What was the conflict like? The origin of the rebellion is as follows, according to a compilation of theological sources, maintaining neutrality between different religious interpretations. Prior to the universe's suffering and the start of time, there was only order, a bright and pristine harmony ruled by the Almighty. Lucifer was the most magnificent of all the creatures that heaven had created. He was referred to as the morning star, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty, and designated guardian of God's throne, according to Ezekiel chapter 28, verses 12 to 17, and Isaiah 14, verses 2 to 15. Among the firestones he wandered. He reflected God's grandeur more than any other being in the universe, but that beauty was tainted by hubris. More than being close to God, Lucifer yearned for equality, to take the throne, to be revered, to govern. "I will rise above the clouds. I will be like the Most High," he said in Isaiah chapter 14, verse 14. The most deadly corruption that had taken root in heaven at that time was self-worship, and insurrection followed. Lucifer wasn't the first one to fall. He shattered a third of the stars in heaven, which is equivalent to a third of the angels, according to Revelation chapter 12, verse 4, which caused them to openly disobey their Creator. Once whole, heaven was split. What came next was neither an allegory nor a metaphor. It was a conflict. Some esoteric and occult theories suggest that Lucifer's rebellion was not a mere act of pride, but a deliberate pursuit of forbidden knowledge and power beyond the authority of the Almighty. Seeking communion with ancient pre-Abrahamic deities or cosmic intelligences described in mythologies such as those of the Sumerians, Greeks, and Egyptians. From this perspective, Lucifer rejected God's singular sovereignty and sought alliance or understanding with entities perceived as older or more hidden, gods of chaos, knowledge, or primordial order, reflecting figures such as Prometheus, Enki, or Set. These interpretations present him as a transgressor of divine boundaries, a cosmic heretic who attempted to unravel realities beyond heaven's design and suffered eternal exile for daring to challenge the one throne with powers that were not to be touched. While the Bible does not support the idea that Lucifer went seeking other gods, these alternative theories frame his rebellion as a cosmic quest for power and knowledge beyond Yahweh. Michael wasn't made to doubt or pursue his own position. He was made to uphold God's will and name. Michael didn't hesitate when Lucifer got up. As the archangel with divine power to topple what no other entity could, he remained steadfast in his role as commander of the heavenly army. There are numerous ways in which the struggle might be interpreted by the human imagination, but one thing is certain. No human weapon could ever duplicate what Michael and Lucifer accomplished in that battle when these entities collided and these armies fought for control of existence. What's interesting is that despite being declared rivals, Michael's power is described with such deceit that it seems far above any attempt by Lucifer to demonstrate his likeness to God. In Daniel chapter 10, verse 13, he is described as one of the chief princes, a title that distinguishes him as a prominent figure in the heavenly hierarchy. Finally, after a conflict that shook existence, the banner was raised in favor of the archangel and the angels, as in the case of Lucifer. He fell. Banished from heaven, Lucifer became Satan, the adversary. The place that once knew his light now knew its absence, and the third part of heaven that followed him became demons, fallen angels, condemned to darkness. Where once they stood before the throne, they now prowl creation as enemies of order, as forces of corruption, destined for ultimate destruction. Now war arose in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Revelation chapter 12, verses 7 to 9. After the heavenly rebellion, his role continues with unmistakable force in both biblical and other sources. Appearing in the book of Daniel as a protector of God's people, he intervened against spiritual powers allied with earthly kingdoms and defended God's people in times of great distress. Michael and Lucifer, now transformed into the adversary, once again clash in this philosophical case, described in the Epistle of Jude, specifically in Jude chapter 1 verse 9, when he and Satan argue over the body of Moses. Regarding this dispute, the exact reason for the argument is never explained, but Jude clearly describes the outcome. In the heat of the dispute, Michael did not dare to curse Satan or judge him on his own. Instead, Michael said a simple phrase with infinite meaning, "The Lord rebuke you." It is a declaration that despite their past confrontation, Michael recognizes the power of the Most High above all else. Some interpretations suggest that Satan sought Moses' body to go against God's first commandment, which states, "You shall have no other gods before me." The idea is that Satan sought to tempt the Jewish people to worship Moses' body. Beyond the biblical record, historical traditions and legends speak of his intervention in human affairs. He is said to have appeared on Mount Gargano, Italy, in the 5th century, sanctifying a cave with his presence and turning it into a place of miraculous reverence. In 590 AD, during a deadly plague in Rome, Pope Gregory the Great led a procession through the city, and Michael was seen atop Hadrian's mausoleum, sheathing his sword at the end of the plague, an act that crowned him in the hearts of believers as the protector of the innocent. Perhaps the most famous is St. Joan of Arc's claim that it was Michael who first appeared to her, giving her the divine mission to liberate France from English rule. His victories, though impossible by worldly standards, became a testament to the idea that Michael still moved among the faithful. His image spread throughout literature, fiction, and culture over time. He exiles Satan and tells Adam about the future in Milton's Paradise Lost. On screen and television, he plays the absent but menacing force behind a celestial civil war in The Omen and as a strong but uncompromising servant of heaven in Supernatural. Michael is portrayed as a cosmic being with demiurgic power in Neil Gaiman's Sandman comics, which are among the most highly praised comics ever created. In this rendition, the two are contrasted with Lucifer, Morningstar, and are both creatures that have the ability to manipulate reality. Finally, despite the constant opposition that both figures represent in people's minds even today, many Christian traditions believe that Michael and Lucifer will clash again at the end of time, this time with the final confrontation between the two and the ultimate victory for one of them. Although the Bible does not describe a second direct battle between them with the same detail as Revelation 12, it offers strong indications that the two figures will once again be on opposing sides during the final events of human history. In Daniel chapter 12 verse 1, it is written, "At that time Michael will stand up, the great prince who watches over your people. And there will be a time of trouble such as has not been since there was a nation." This verse is widely interpreted as a reference to the end of time, the dreaded and inevitable apocalypse. It suggests that Michael will appear once again to fulfill his role as messenger, this time delivering a message on the sword God placed in his hand. His intervention will be decisive during a period of unprecedented chaos and suffering. In Revelation 20, following Christ's millennial reign, Satan is unleashed for one last attempt to corrupt the world. Although Michael is not explicitly named in that chapter, his role as heavenly military commander in Revelation 12 and his responsibility for God's people in Daniel make it clear that he will once again be at the forefront of divine judgment, likely as the one who carries out the final defeat of Satan and his forces. On a philosophical level, the final confrontation may not be described as a hand-to-hand duel, but rather declared through the human end, where, after millennia of constant conflict, the battle ultimately falls on the side of goodness, kindness, and all that it entails. That final judgment ends with Satan being cast into the lake of fire, defeated forever. No more exile for him, only destruction. Thus, the ancient war will not remain in the past. It will return at the climax of time, where the battlefield is earth, the stakes are eternal, and the powers of heaven, led by Michael, will rise once more to crush the last breath of darkness. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. Thank you all for watching. If there's a historical figure you'd like to see featured next, or if you have any thoughts to share, feel free to leave a comment below. I'll see you in the next video.